we've been talking about the woman at the dumpster, lady that gives us a pattern of how to get close enough to Jesus to touch his garments as she did. And so we've looked at connecting this with Hebrews 11:6, which I believe is a beautiful pattern for coming to God in our daily devotional times. It says that without faith it's impossible to please him. And so first week we talked about the greatest detriment to faith, to hearing from God and responding, is the mirror, that trash-talking mirror that gets in our way, telling us all the terrible things about us. And faith never comes by looking in the mirror. It comes by listening to God, standing before the treasure-talking cross of Jesus. And so she threw her mirror. Next thing, she threw her masks. Second part of that verse says, he that comes to God. How do we come? We come humbly. We come just as we are, with no pretense. And today we're going to talk about the third aspect of that, believing that he is. And so, Lord, help us today to come to you with a sense that you are real. You are in the present now in our situations, as you were for that lady. And so help us, Lord. Well, Mark 5:27 through 28 says that this woman who had the bleeding situation for 12 years, but she had heard the reports about Jesus, came up behind him in the crowd and touched his garment. For she said, if I touch even his garments, I will be made well. She decided to get close enough to him. She believed in faith what the Spirit of God had said to her. She began to say those things to herself. And she believed he is here. God cares about me. That Jesus is here right now, today, that I have access to him, that he's practically in my backyard. All I have to do is get up out of my house and go to press through the crowds, and I'll be able to see him. It's relevant to my situation. It's not just something she had heard reports. Over in the next town along the Sea of Galilee, that Jesus had been healing people. It happened yesterday, or it happened last week. Well, that's nice to hear, but she said, I want to get in on it myself. If in her day she'd had the technology that we have now, she could have just, waited until the evening news came on to hear what was happening, let them put their slant on it, and let them, show me pictures and movies, videos of what happened earlier in the day. But she said, you know what? I'm not going to do that. She took her computer monitor in effect and threw it in the dumpster. She said, I don't want old news from far away. I want to be live and in person. Jesus is here. If we want to get close to Jesus, that has to be our attitude. I don't just want to hear about the historical Jesus back then. That's great and that's wonderful, but I want to encounter him now as we approach him in our prayer times. Say, God, I believe that you're here now, and that you want to connect with me, and that I can connect with you. She had no concept of all that was involved here, that God, the Creator, had come in human form, born and laid in a manger. Here he had walked the dusty donkey trail to her house, to her hometown anyhow. She didn't know all the depth of that, but she believed what the Spirit was speaking to her heart, and in faith she was responding. And so she decided, I've got this chance firsthand to draw near to him, and so she did. But she decided not just to watch history, but she decided to make history. Not just view pictures of Jesus on her monitor, but be in the picture with Jesus. And so if ever you watch KIMA News here in Yakima, you're probably aware that Mike McCabe is the local weatherman. You can view him from the comfort of your home, as see broadcasts from the Tri-Cities. He's a Natchez boy. He grew up in the town nearby here, but he lives in Tri-Cities now. While he's giving his forecast, as you watch it on your TV screen or computer monitor, you can turn the sound down. You can change the channel. You can turn the TV off if you want. No questions, no discomfort or awkwardness. And if you miss the 5 o'clock showing, then it's on again at 6 o'clock. If you miss that, tune in at 11. Otherwise, just tune your, click on your computer, the website, and you can see him any time of day or night. There's no need for any interaction, no personal questions that he's going to ask you about what you think about the broadcast or him. And I've seen him from the distance and time delayed many times through the years. But in December of 2019, I was at the Sunnyside, Washington Farm Lighted Implement Parade, where they have trucks and grape harvesters and all kinds of things. It's nationally renowned. It was kind of the first one to do that. And there are thousands of people, block after block, people lined up to see it. And as I was there, a little over a year ago, here comes Mike McCabe, dressed up in his winter snowflake suit. He's famous for wearing suits that reflect the season of the year. And he was there, and I decided I want to go talk to him. I've seen him from the distance, but I want to interact with him, and I want to get my picture taken with him. And so my daughter was along with her camera, and we went up, we pressed through the crowd. I engaged him in conversation and had my picture taken with him. It's a little different than just watching him on the screen, and that's kind of what this woman did in a much larger capacity. My life was not transformed by visiting with Mike McCabe. It was a fun experience, and I don't regret that I did it, but I just want to use that as an illustration of kind of, are we viewing God on the monitor, no interaction, just keep him in the box, at our whim and call. We can decide when to tune in or not. We're not going to allow him to ask any uncomfortable questions. Are we going to be a part of the picture, or are we just going to watch it from the distance? This week there was traumatic things going on at the Capitol building, and I totally disapprove of the actions that were taken by some people there. But I want to hand them this in a way of compliment. They were people that care about our country. Things backfired in the way that they responded terribly. The wrath of man doesn't work the righteousness of God. But here is one thing I want to say in their favor. They said, I'm not just going to sit back in my hometown 2,000 miles away and watch things take place on a computer monitor or a television screen or my phone or whatever. They said, I'm going to get in my car. I'm going to drive. I'm going to go to the airport. I'm going to purchase a ticket. I'm going to be involved. And in that aspect of things, I say God give us people that are spiritually directed and in the right ways, but people that care about our country, but also what we're talking about today. I want to get close to Jesus. Nothing's going to stop me. Whatever inconvenience or discomfort is involved, whatever expense is involved, I'm going to be like this woman that pushed through to touch the hem of his garment. She wasn't just going to watch it on the evening news, but she was going to be there. Jesus always wants to get close to you. He's always available, always waiting. He wants a close-up, live relationship with you. There was a woman that found that out in John chapter 4. She was a woman that most people wouldn't have given much respect to or thought that she had any spiritual inclinations in her heart. But Jesus went out of his way to encounter her, to visit her. As they began to discuss, it got up close and personal. He started asking questions like, first he said, well, why don't you bring your husband? I have no husband. Well, you've spoken right. You don't have a husband. The guy you're living with now you're not married to, and you've had 5 husbands before him. So she seemed to want to change the subject. When God gets too close to us, we want to turn the sound down or cut the video out. But so she tried to change the subject. John 4:19, the woman said to him, Sir, I perceive that you are a prophet. Well, someone has said it'd be better if she would have said, Sir, I perceive that I'm a sinner. But she tried to take the focus away from her issues. And, you're a prophet. You know all these spiritual things, so I've got a question for you. Our fathers worship on this mountain, but you say that in Jerusalem is the place where people ought to worship. She was Samaritan. They were kind of a mongrel hybrid religion that combined the tenets of Judaism with the other surrounding religions that they wanted to grab from, and they were despised by the Jewish people because of this and looked down on. Jesus here was talking to this Samaritan woman, which was very unusual. But she said, well, let's talk theology. What do you Jews believe compared to what we Samaritans believe? We have Mount Gerizim here, which that's where we worship. And Jesus didn't take the bait. He said to her, Woman, believe me, the hour is coming when neither on this mountain nor in Jerusalem will you worship the Father. But the hour is coming and is now here when true worshipers will worship the Father in spirit and truth. For the Father is seeking such people to worship Him. God is spirit, and those who worship Him must worship in spirit and in truth. He was saying, it's time to worship. Toss the monitor, lady. You're talking about things over here and over there. That's what religion does. It puts God in a box in the church building on a Sunday morning. He said God is spirit. That's not restricted by time and place. Toss your monitor, lady. Here's a chance to encounter spiritual reality right out here at this well on Thursday or whatever day of the week it is. And we don't have the same opportunity to connect with Jesus physically as she did, but the same Holy Spirit that had drawn her to that well, that had directed Jesus to go there, the same Spirit is drawing us and calling us today. And we say, I'd rather stick you on my monitor over there where I can control things. Well, lady was a little bit taken aback by this new concept, but she said to him, I know the Messiah is coming. He who was called the Christ. When He comes, He will tell us all things. And, let's just push it off into the future. Jesus said to her, I who speak to you am He. Right here, right now, I am speaking with you. I don't know that He had directly told anybody else in such clear terms that I am the Messiah. She said, I'm waiting, we're waiting for Him. He said, I am here. It's not just someday my Prince will come, but my Prince is here knocking on my door. And that needs to be our attitude as we approach God in our devotional times. Lord, you're here right now. It's not over there in the church building on Sunday, but it's right here where I am right now. So the woman left her water jar, went away into town. That was a valuable thing. You don't leave that unguarded, but she left her water jar. She went into town and said to the people, Come, see a man who told me all that I ever did. Can this be the Christ? She wasn't a type of woman that you would think is spiritually evangelistic, that other people are going to listen to, but she came and said, He told me everything I did. And they knew it wasn't good, probably what he told her, but she said, there's something about him that he wanted to talk to me. He cared about me. Maybe He cares about you folks too. They maybe were just curious, but they came. It says that many more believed because of His word. They said to the woman, it's no longer because of what you said that we believe. but we have heard for ourselves, and we know that this is indeed the Savior of the world. I said, we didn't just hear your report about it. It wasn't just something that was some after the fashion broadcast and description. We went ourselves. We tossed our monitors in the dumpster, and we came live and in person, and we encountered Jesus. And we believe he is the Savior of the world, not just some nice teacher, but he has convinced us who he really is. And Jesus wants to convince us of who he is. He wants to engage us, not just in a relationship of a monitor. We have doorbell cameras nowadays and monitors. You can monitor things from far away. But you can also, when somebody's at your door, you can talk to them right back and forth through the monitor. And so Revelation 3 verse 20, Jesus says, "Behold, I stand at the door and knock. If anyone hears my voice and opens the door, I will come into him and eat with him and he with me." We, have the option here. Am I going to invite him in? Am I going to really make myself vulnerable? Am I going to suffer the discomfort of him coming into my house? Or do we say, you know what, Jesus, I've got this lasagna in the fridge. I'm going to stick it in the microwave. I'll just prop the door open enough to hand it to you. You sit on the patio out there. We'll have this conversation. If it's too personal, I can just turn down the volume. I can shut off the video. I don't have to interact with you. I don't have to let you hear what I'm really thinking or saying either. But let's just kind of keep it a little distance. If I have the capacity to record it here so I can listen in later in case I don't want to hear it all now. Well, that's not what Jesus wants. He says, I want to come in. Jesus confronted the woman that touched the hem of his garment, said, "Come here, I want to talk to you." And he affirmed her. He blessed her. But it was a frightening thing for her. There's a song called "The Secret Place" that I heard many years ago, and I won't try and sing it for you. But here are the words. "My heart is like a house. One day I let the Savior in. There are many rooms where we would visit now and then. But then one day he saw that door. I knew the day had come too soon. I said, Jesus, I'm not ready for us to visit in that room, because that's a place in my heart where even I don't go. I have some things hidden there I don't want no one to know." But he handed me the key with tears of love on his face, and he said, "I want to make you clean. Let me go in your secret place." So I opened up the door, and as the two of us walked in, I was so ashamed his light revealed my hidden sin. But when I think about that room now, I'm not afraid anymore, because I know my hidden sin no longer hides behind that door. So every circumstance is an opportunity to draw closer to Jesus. If I want to get closer to Jesus, I can't leave him out of any moment of my life, any area of my life. The greatest defeats or the greatest victories, the greatest sorrows or the greatest joys, invite him in wherever and however so he can deal with it. Adam and Eve weren't eager to come close to Jesus, but all he wanted to do was to cover them, to restore them. Peter, after his sin, deserting Jesus, running away, denying him, cursing and swearing and all that. The Bible says that Jesus appeared to Peter and to the other disciples who had also deserted him and felt such disappointment with themselves. But Jesus says, I want to talk to you personally, not just send a message alone that I'm risen and want to return, but he said, I want to show up here, not just by video teleconference. He passed through the walls to be with him, and he'll do that for us if we're willing. But actually, we have to open the door, don't we? To say, Jesus, come in. David, his deepest sin, Jesus said, I want to renew fellowship with you. Jacob fleeing from his brother Esau after the treachery that he committed, and even in that place he said, surely the presence of the Lord is in this place, and I knew it not. God appeared to him, not just by teleconference, but God spoke to him and gave him vision for his future. Our times that are just blah, unemotional days, those are days that God says, come and spend time with me. Brother Lawrence, centuries ago, a monk that wrote a book called Practicing the Presence of God, talks about how God was with him when he was washing dishes. He would converse with God as he's gardening, as he's eating dinner, as he's helping people, whatever it is. Those are all opportunities where we don't have to keep God at a distance. We say, God, welcome. Welcome to my world. Welcome to my life. And in the days of great joy, don't forget him. You've graduated, finally won that degree. Share it with Jesus. Say, here, you're the day you take the keys to your new house or your new car, thank him. The day that you stand at the altar and recite your marriage vows, the day that you take your baby home from the hospital. Those are all times of rejoicing. And in the present, God wants to be with us, live with us in the present. That we don't just send him a recorded Facebook message that we'll send to him later, but he says, I want to be here right now. God never told anybody that I can read in the Bible when they wanted to come to him, say, okay, come back later when you're more cleaned up, when I've got more time to deal with it. No. Later is a word that we put in the vocabulary. Jesus says, come to me, you the labor and are heavy laden, I'll give you rest. We say, now later, I got to finish this project. But we need to just toss our monitor, our video recording devices that we're going to put things off to later and say, here, right now. Moses had spent a tedious 40 years in the wilderness, and suddenly he had an encounter with God. It says in Exodus chapter 3, verse 1, now Moses was tending the flock of Jethro, his father-in-law, the priest of Midian, and he led the flock to the far side of the wilderness and came to Horeb, the mountain of God. He had messed up, and he had spent 40 years regretting that, and he probably was not feeling spiritual that day any more than he was when he'd first come to the mount, in fleeing from the Egyptians after having murdered a person, trying to take things into his own hands, and that doesn't work out very good, as we saw this week in Washington, D.C. perhaps, but there he was. And there, the angel of the Lord appeared to him in flames of fire from within a bush. Moses saw that though the bush was on fire, it did not burn up. So Moses thought, I will go over and see this strange sight, why the bush does not burn up. When the Lord saw he had gone over to look, God called to him from within the bush, Moses, Moses. And Moses said, here I am. God came to him personally. He knew who he was. He knew his circumstances. And he said, Moses, he called him by name. And Moses said what we need to say, here I am. And I'm not going to go flip the channel, or not going to go turn the volume off or do something else. Here I am. Live and in person. God was there and Moses was there. Do not come any closer, God said. Take off your sandals, for the place where you are standing is holy ground. Not that God didn't want him to draw near, but it would have, Moses is human and God is divine, and you get too close to that fire, you're going to be consumed. But he said, I'm here, I'm close enough. This is sacred ground. He said, take off your shoes. God wants us to be vulnerable, to recognize that we're in the presence of greatness as we come to him. Take off your shoes, Moses. That, for one thing, that means you're not going to be as able to flee. The sand is hot. The snakes are poison. Protection, we need to let go of that and just say, here I am. I'm not going to run away. God says, listen to me, but respect the proper boundaries. And verse 6, then he said, I am the God of your father, the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, the God of Jacob. At this, Moses hid his face because he was afraid to look at God. There's no monitor here I can turn off. God is there, this presence revealed in the burning bush. We like to keep God in our little box so we can determine the rules of engagement. But God says, no, not going to happen. Later on at Mount Sinai, when Moses went up to the mountain and God wanted to speak and his voice thundered from the mountain, the children of Israel said, no, Moses, we don't want to come close. You tell him. You tell us what he said, and after the fact, we'll listen to you after you come down, but we're not going to directly, live and in person, interact with God in that way. But for now, verse 10, God says, so now, go, I am sending you to Pharaoh to bring my people, the Israelites, out of Egypt. Now, he says, not sometime off in the far future. God says, I want to be involved with you in the present, in your daily life, in your difficulties, in your triumphs, in your defeats. He had told Moses earlier, I am the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob. And Abraham, or Moses might have said, that was great. Back there, that was fantastic when you provided the ram in the thicket for Abraham. But this is now, God, you don't maybe realize the world power, Egypt. We've been in slave labor for all these years. He's not going to let us go. We don't have any military might or anything else to do it. Who am I that I should go to Pharaoh and bring him out? Who? Me? And God says, I am. He didn't say I was back then, and I've lost all my energy. I've grown old and decrepit. He was talking to him, by the way, from a bush that was not being consumed. It was burning, and it kept burning, and it didn't burn up. And I think we need to understand the bush is still burning today, and God is still speaking. God is still calling. And we need to respond and say, here and now. But Moses, who me? Back in Hebrews 11:6, you have to believe that he is. That's what we're looking at today. Believe that he is in my present situation what I need. Not he was back then. He's not the great has been, but he is the great I am, as we'll see here in a minute. It's not believing what I am. The core of it is believing who God is. Verse 12, God said, I will be with you. Not via Zoom or some teleconference platform. I will be with you in person. Verse 13, Moses said to God, suppose I go to the Israelites and say to them, the God of your fathers has sent me to you, and they ask me, what is his name? Then what shall I tell them? God says to Moses, I am who I am. This is what you are to say to the Israelites. I am has sent you. The one who has no boundaries of time, the future, or the past. I am who I am. I always have been. I always will be. I'm not going to deteriorate. I'm not going to develop into something. The same God that I was back there for Abraham, I am for you. All those hundreds of years ago have not diminished my power. I didn't say I was the God of Abraham. I said I am the God of Abraham. And God also said to Moses, say to the Israelites, the Lord, the God of your fathers, the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, the God of Jacob has sent me to you. This is my name forever, the name you shall call me from generation to generation. The word Lord here is related in the Hebrew language to the expression in verse 14 where God said, I am. He describes himself. He says, I am. And we describe him to others. We say he is. The Lord, the different names that were given. Abraham said, the Lord, Jehovah Jireh, the Lord who provides. Moses, after victory battle, he said, Jehovah Nissi, the Lord, my banner, the banner of power and might. Jehovah Rapha, the healer, God healed the waters, and they were able to drink. And these were things that were, he said, by this name I want you to know, this is the name that speaks of my interaction with my people, my care for them. Elohim is God the Creator, and there are other names that are more kind of remote and distant. Whenever we see the name Lord, Yahweh or Jehovah, Yahweh, my shepherd, the one that cares for me, that leads and guides me. And so that is, the woman realized he is Jehovah Rapha, my healer. We need to realize who he is, but he also wants to interact with us directly. In Matthew 16, verse 15, Jesus has been with his disciples, and he's asking them, who do people say that I am? And they did talk about, one of the prophets, this or that. But then Jesus looks directly at Peter and he says, Peter, who do you say that I am? And Peter said, you are the Christ, the Son of the living God. That's the most important question when Jesus says to me, who do you say that I am? Am I the Savior? Do you need me? Am I the one who is and was and is to come, the one who always has been, who never changes in his nature, but he becomes to me what I need? He's told the Israelites, I'll be to you as the dew. I will be to you as a fiery wall of protection. That's the question that this woman had to decide as she talked to Jesus, as she decided who he was, and as she interacted with him. She was saying in her heart, you are my healer. I believe you are sent to me, that you care for me. In Luke 22, the Last Supper says that, and he took bread, verse 19, and when he had given thanks, he broke it and gave it to them, saying, this is my body, which is given for you. This was not a Zoom call. This was not a recorded thing from some distant place. He said, right here, right now, prophecy is being fulfilled. There's a new covenant that's being enacted, and you're the first to be involved in it. This bread, he broke it. He said, this is my body, which is given for you. Do this in remembrance of me. So as each disciple, that was a plural word on you. When he said it's given to you, it's for you all. But each of them individually had to decide, I'm going to take this bread. I'm going to eat it. I may not understand the full impact of what is said, but I believe. And as a symbol of this new covenant, this is for me. Jesus said it's for you, and I say it's for me. Likewise, the cup after they had eaten, saying, this cup that is poured out for you is the new covenant in my blood. It's poured out for you, Peter. Poured out for you, Judas. It's poured out for you. If you'll take it, Matthew and James and John, every one of you. It was an offer that was made in the plural, but it had to be taken in the singular, each of them individually, as they took that cup. This is the cup that was poured out for me. And here, I encourage you to take communion not just together with others. That's a beautiful thing, and that's the main purpose of it. We recognize the Lord's body, but which is other believers as well as his broken body on the cross. But I would challenge you this week, take communion by yourself. As you find a piece of bread and some juice of some sort or whatever, would you just take it and say, it's for me. His body was broken for me. His cup, it's for me. His blood was poured out for me. And so this day, if you've never come to that place where you said, it's for me. You've watched maybe, here I am on this monitor. You can turn it off. You can turn it down. But would you come to Jesus personally and say, I want to be live and in person. I need you. I believe that you are the Savior of the world. As the Samaritans said, I believe that you died for my sins as we understand it now. I believe that you rose and that you want to spend eternity with me, that I'm not going to have to watch you from a distance and a time delay, but I will look upon your face. I will interact with you. I will see you. And so, Jesus, forgive me. Jesus, receive me. And if you are in a place of defeat, discouragement, don't come later. Come now. Receive forgiveness. Start fresh and start new to the God that says, I am here. I am here now for you. In Jesus' name we thank. Amen.